Perfect. Perfect.
Alright, so I'll just quickly explain these springs for the gearbox. So essentially the way it works is you pull this out and behind it is a spring, and then there'll be a ball inside there that will be pressing against the selector rod, which, or this goes down into a thing that moves back and forth and rotates to change the gears up in here somewhere. Anyway, so you unscrew these. They're particular to each side if I remember correctly, so don't swap them around. And then you can change out the spring tension, so it looks like there'll be soft, medium, and then hard springs, and they've also got, I believe, new end caps here, so you can get some fancy GK Tech ones probably. So today I might just pull them out, like I'll mount up the shifter and everything, and then pull it out and just test and see what they feel like and see which one I like best. Also, for the record, if anyone has an MX7, the front switch is the reverse lights, and the white plug is the one you want. So when it's the reverse lights, you want the switch to be, like the circuit to be closed when it's pressed in and open when it's released, so the lights only come on, or the circuit's only complete when you put it in reverse. This one is like a neutral switch, so it's activated when the switch is out. So every gear you go into will close the switch, and then when you're in neutral, it will release the switch and turn the circuit on. It's for some like saving fuel economy thing. I don't know, I don't care. This is the only switch I've got that works anyway, and I have to pull it out of my race car, so I'm just not going to run that one, which is fine. So we'll pull this apart and have a look, seeing as it's all we can really do in the wet. Alright, so this thing was pretty bloody tight. I ended up using a 1 1/16 socket, because that's what I had that fit, but a 27 is a slightly looser fit, so maybe a 26 is a good fit, I don't know. But anyway, just be really, really careful, because this is soft and you can round it pretty easy. I almost did, as you can see with the shifter. So get the right size socket, single hex if you can. Anyway, so you unscrew this, it spits out this spring. The whole thing smells kind of like brake clean. Anyway, there's a little pin in there. There it is. So that's your detent. Let me just focus up. There we go. So we can sort of pull that out. There you go. So there's your detent, and there'll be a ball probably behind it or not. I don't remember. Anyway, so I'll open this up and we'll compare it to what came out. Okay, so the kit essentially comes with 2 of each of these. So you got a cap, which is a really nice billet looking piece that's been anodized with GK's logo on it, GK Tech's logo. Then you've got what I assume is a soft spring, a medium spring, and a hard spring, just based on squeezing them. So that one's really easy, that one's kind of harder, and that one is obviously the hardest. Now, these are the bits that came out. So this one is probably spun alloy, I don't know. Anyway, kind of sounds like steel, whatever. And then this spring is probably, let me have a feel. Yeah, it's definitely, so I would place a spring around here somewhere. So even by looks, it looks like it fits about there. So it's definitely harder than the softest one, but it's just a little bit softer than the medium one. So on GK Tech's website, people have reviewed the kit, and they've said that they upgraded. This is in RB25, because again, all this stuff is RB25 specific. I'm just stuffing it into an MX7 because why not? So on their website, someone said that they changed out to this spring, and they're really happy with it. So all this really does is, as you select gears, so in this case, pushing the gear stick that way would rotate the bottom of the selector this way, which would push out this thing. You see it moves out, then we can push it back in with the spring that would be there. So as you move it across, it's going to be, you see we push that back in and it recenters it. So the harder the spring, the harder it's going to be to select a gear, because you have to put more force in to move the gear stick across, but also the more firm it will feel. Like it doesn't feel as sloppy because there's less there's more tension on everything. So although old mate recommended the second spring was the one that on the FAQ or whatever, the user feedback thing, he said the second spring was a good one. I'm going to throw in the third spring because why the hell not? May as well. And if anything, this is going to wear down. Well, probably won't. I don't know. Whatever. I'm throwing this one in. I don't know why. I'm just doing it because I can. All right, let's put it in and see how it looks. So it's pretty simple. You just take the spring, put it in the hole, take your cap, make sure the spring goes in the center of the cap there, and then make sure you don't cross thread your cap. Maybe some anti-seize would be good to put on this, but you just make sure you got clean threads, and this is just by hand threading it in nicely. Then it will eventually stop, and then you just nip it up with your tool. There we go, so that's stopped there. Double check that it's still the same size. Ooh, that is a perfect fit now, whatever that one was. Anyway, so you just put that in, get your spanner. Now don't forget, these are, or they feel like alloy. Although they're billet, they're probably still pretty soft, so you just give it just a little bit of a touch up, and there we go. So now if we feel, oh yeah, that's much harder. So I've got the soft, or the standard spring on this side still, and then the hard spring on this side. So when I try and move the shifter away from myself, it's going to be a harder spring, and then when I move it towards myself, it's going to be easier. So if we watch the gearbox, as I push it away, it's actually rolling the whole gearbox, and then when I pull it towards myself, it doesn't roll it as far. So I don't know, it's not a very good measurement, but you can certainly feel the difference. It takes probably twice as much force to move the gear stick that way as opposed to moving it this way. So I'm going to change the spring on the other side now and then see what it feels like. Bear in mind, I also have the GK Tech brass bush for the bottom of the gear shifter, so it's nice and snug in there. There's no slop, well, there's not as much slop in there because my plastic one's shattered. So again, RB25 one fits the MX7 gear shifter, provided this is all stock. I don't know what it is, I just got it from whoever with the gearbox. So all those caveats in place, this feels great so far. So I'm going to change the other side and we'll see. All right, so interestingly, I pulled this cap off and it had a bunch of sealant on it. So it's probably a point to note, maybe put some sealant on these. But it came out with 2 springs in it. Come on, focus. So one's painted yellow and the other one's one of the smaller ones. So I'm not too sure why that is, but we might have a look in this hole and, oh no, it's the same. It's still got the same sort of detent in there. So looking at this, I'm really not sure. Maybe you need to put, no, well, there goes that spring. Maybe you need to put, you know, that spring and then the smaller spring inside it, like that, because that would make it a little bit stiffer, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to throw in the stiffer spring like I had on the first side and then have a feel, and if I'm not happy with it, I'll figure out a different combination. But that's interesting. So maybe my comparison from left to right was garbage because I had the wrong, or someone else had the wrong spring in this side. Right, so with the stiffer spring and the new cap installed on this side, just trying to go from side to side, it's interesting. This spring makes this side feel firmer, so it's harder to move across. But then this spring on this side makes this side feel easier, but notchier at the same time. So overall, it would take the same amount of force from either side, but this side's got a notch you have to overcome first, and this side's just nice and gradual the whole time. So you're moving, and notch over, and then this one is the same amount of force, but it's just gradual. So I don't know. I'm just going to leave it as is. Maybe I'll put some sealant on these, just because they had sealant to begin with, and run it and see how it turns out. But I mean, they look great. For 25 bucks, you really can't go wrong. It's a good little bit of kit. So I'll keep all these spare just in case something goes wrong or I have to change it back, and we're good to go. All right, so I decided to throw the smallest spring in as well as the hardest spring. I figure it's wastegate logic and 2 is better than 1, so it feels a little bit stiffer now, and I'm a bit happier with the amount of stiffness. There's still some slop in it because nothing's perfect, but I am much happier with it now. So double spring, hardest and skinniest seems to be a good thing. So my dumbass left this rattle gun out in the rain last night, and the battery was plugged in, and it was sitting upright like this with the battery underneath, and that is like maybe a quarter of the water that came out of the battery. It was ridiculous. Anyway, I thought it'd be cactus for sure, and you could probably still get some water out of this battery. Yeah, it's still dripping, but hit the button. Battery's cooked. I'm not game enough to plug it into mains power because it's still pretty wet, so I'm going to leave that for a little bit longer. I thought the rattle gun would have suffered the same fate. However, this battery was inside last night. Can you believe it? I'm not sponsored by Ryobi at all, but spending all night in the rain with open everything, and all you do is slap a new battery in and it goes. Pretty good quality product. I'm not sponsored by them, but I'd love to be. Can't believe it actually works.